Yeah.
So thanks as always for inviting me to speak. It's always very nice to be part of these events. So the project I'm going to speak about today is the agroBRIDGES project. But I'll talk about that in a bit, because in classic BioLadies fashion, I'll give an introduction to myself and my career so far. So like Iris said, I'm from Malta. That's not actually where I met Iris. We met in the UK. But in Malta, I did my bachelor's in chemistry with materials. So I was always very interested in chemistry, but I didn't really like the biochemistry or the pharmacology side of things. So I did chemistry with materials, which was a little bit more on the engineering side, I suppose, of things. And I enjoyed that a lot, and I wanted to continue studying chemistry, I suppose. But in the meantime, before I did that, I moved to Austria. So I spent 4 months in Graz working at the materials sector of uranium research. It's very, I had a lot of fun there. Actually, I worked in the sensors group, and we worked on sensors for food spoilage. I had worked on sensors before, actually, before I was in Austria, because for my bachelor's thesis, I worked on sensors that had functionality. So they did like molecular logic, which would be similar to what you can do, I suppose, how binary kind of works for a computer. So if you have like the ones and the zeros in computing, like for particular outcomes, I suppose, from certain functions, then similar to that in chemistry, then we can get our molecules to fluoresce if we have a positive output from some kind of sensing, or a negative output would be if it doesn't fluoresce from some kind of sensing. So I moved on working on sensors. I enjoyed working on materials a lot, but my interest, I suppose, in sustainability was growing from there. So that's kind of what I decided to keep studying. So that's when I moved to York. So I did my PhD there. I did my PhD in sustainable chemistry at the Green Chemistry Centre of Excellence. The Green Chemistry Centre of Excellence, if you haven't heard of it, it's a great place. The research group is large now. It can sometimes be about 90 or 100 people when we have visiting researchers as well. So I worked on bio-based porous materials, so materials that were made generally from unavoidable food waste, like shrimp shells or orange peels, for example. And I would use these porous materials for a number of different applications. So I had a lot of freedom during this project because I won a scholarship for it. So I wasn't industry funded, which kind of meant that I could study whatever I wanted, which was nice. So I looked at using these porous materials as capacitors, so to store energy. I used the materials as well to selectively extract CBD from hemp, which is something that we're getting a patent for now. And I used the materials, which are called star bonds, by the way. I used the star bonds as well to extract natural compounds from seaweed, such as so we extracted sunscreen as well, natural sunscreen, so that's very interesting, and also to separate carbon dioxide from a mixture of gases so that it wouldn't end up as a greenhouse gas. And then from there, so I finished my PhD in December of 2016, and I moved straight to Ireland after that, because I had gone to the southwest of Ireland on holiday and I fell in love with it. So that's where I wanted to live, I decided. And so I moved, luckily, very, very luckily, because I didn't think there were any jobs there, but I found the job at the time it was the Institute of Technology, Tralee, but now it's the Munster Technological University. And so I was hired there as a bioeconomy researcher on a project that I'll talk about soon. And then I was promoted in a few months to a new project manager, and then I won some funding for my own project. So I'm now a principal investigator. So a brief overview of the projects that I've been working on, I suppose, since I've been in this job. So I started out working on the ICT Biochain project. So that was an EU project, a Horizon 2020 project, sorry, a BBIJU project, and that was on trying to mobilize or to make biomass supply chains more efficient through the introduction of technologies within the biomass supply chain. So one of the things that we did was a lot of bioresource mapping. This is a lot of the work that I did in my part of the project. So we would have mapped in Ireland, in the 26 counties of Ireland, we would have mapped a number of different resources. So in each county, we'd know the quantities of manures, different types of manures, different types of straws, things like mushroom compost, and all sorts of different things. Anyway, forestry residues as well. And we'd have the composition for all of those. We'd have the prices and the application and everything they were going for. So that was a very interesting project. So if you wanted to build a biorefinery in a certain area in Ireland, we could tell you there's this much protein coming from these sources and so on. So that's an extremely useful database. But I only worked in the last year of that project. And then during that, when that finished anyway, I had won my own funding for the Efficient Food project. The Efficient Food is a national project which is finishing this month, so I'm just submitting the final report tomorrow, hopefully, so that's very exciting. And that was on understanding the nature and extent of food losses and waste from all of primary production in Ireland. So for all the different food sectors, agriculture and marine as well, we would have just quantified all of the food losses, all of the food waste. We have associated reasons for all of those, and then we put together recommendations to reduce all the food losses and waste. So that's that project. And then now I'm working on the agroBRIDGES project, which I'll talk about in a second, and also doing a socioeconomic study of seaweed harvesting in Ireland, because seaweed harvesting is something that's becoming very topical now. It seems to be growing a lot, so we just want to make sure that that's done in a very environmentally friendly way, and that all the aspects of that are considered. And so I've never been a part of a socioeconomic study before, so this is going to be very interesting for me, and I think it'll be very beneficial anyways for Ireland. So finally, moving on to the agroBRIDGES project. So the agroBRIDGES project is all about connecting producers and consumers. So it's about empowering farmers, because at the moment, if you think about the farmer's position in terms of your actual food project and your actual food product, and I suppose the power that the farmers have in terms of the price that gets sold at and where it gets sold and so on and so forth, they don't have a lot of power there. So that's kind of something that we're trying to shift through the integration of short food supply chains. The project is a 3-year project. It has a budget of 3 million euros, and it is a Horizon 2020 project. And it just started now in January, so it's only just kicked off, I suppose. So like I said, how we're going to do this is by trying to integrate short food supply chains. So if you can imagine, generally today, if you have like a food supply chain, you have a food that's maybe grown on a farm or caught in the sea or so on, and then that might go to some sort of processing facility, and then from there maybe onto packaging and distribution, which could be international distribution, and then from there potentially to a restaurant or something, and then eventually maybe to a supermarket or to your home. And that's a very, very long food supply chain. And what we're trying to do is to shorten that, because of course having a very long food supply chain has a very high environmental impact, so that's not great. Ideally local is always better, to try to reduce that footprint for food, because it just doesn't need to happen, it's unnecessary. And yeah, so that's one of the benefits of short food supply chains. But then the other side of it is this the lack of power that farmers have, I suppose, that I was talking about before. So the price of food, as lots of you might know, at the moment is extremely low. You know, you can buy a whole chicken these days for like 2.50 sometimes, or 3 euros, which is not very sustainable at all. So farmers don't get to decide the prices for the food that they're growing or catching or so on. And that means that it's very difficult for them to decide what gets sold, when it gets sold. For example, if they have to harvest certain vegetables early, they can't decide to sell those off, for example, at a discounted price or so on, because the supermarkets will decide what they buy or what they don't buy. Supermarkets can very often as well, and this is something I found through the food project, that one of the largest food losses and waste is because supermarkets can cancel their orders at the very last minute, and then leaving the farmers back with all of this food that they can't do anything with. So obviously they could try to donate it or put it back into compost, into the soil, which would be one of the better things to do. But you know, generally that's all they can do, and they've put a lot of effort into growing all of this food, so their income is reduced. And then you have all of the waste from all of the fertilizers they would have used, and the land degradation that comes with all of that, the excessive land use to growing all these vegetables that we don't end up eating, so on and so forth. So essentially what we're trying to do is to connect farmers with the consumers, so that link is very straightforward. The consumers can meet the farmers, can talk to them, can know what's going on, can know what's in season, what they should be eating at whatever time of year. And yeah, so that's what we're trying to do, I suppose, with this project in a very long-winded way. So we have a few objectives, of course, like I said, to empower farmers. And the way we're going to do this is by creating a toolbox. So there is several tools in there. One of them is a decision support tool to help farmers to build their business models in order to sell their produce. And then there'll be a number of other tools like communication materials, training programs, event guides, and other tools as well. And then, like I said, of course, this is an EU project. So this is going to be rolled out in 12 different regions across Europe. So the actions to do this, so the first, which is what we're doing at the moment, is to analyze the current situation, identify barriers, and co-create solutions. So what we're doing right now is collecting a lot of best practices from all over Europe. So where short food supply chains are already functioning and functioning well, if they are functioning well, and then trying to speak to people who are in the food sector and trying to figure out what the needs and barriers are, what the opportunities are essentially. And so if they wanted to be part of a short food supply chain, what's stopping them from doing that right now? If it's the prices, if it's the communication or trying to get there somehow, or then if they have managed to do it, what helped them, what was difficult, so on and so forth. And then we can use that to better build our tools, so that we'll have our toolbox, and then we'll be able to connect the farmers with the consumers in that way. And then, like I said, we'll roll that out all over Europe. So it's a big project, like I said. So there's 15 partners, of course, because we're working in 12 regions, and then we have a few other partners taking care of communications and project management and so on. But yeah, it's 15 partners, so it's a big project, and that's it, I suppose. So you can connect with us if you like on Twitter and LinkedIn. We have a website as well if you'd like any more information. And then there's my contact details here if you'd like to ask me anything else after this meeting today. But thank you very much for listening. And thanks, Iris.